You kids really want to hear that story again, huh? I could see my daughter's disapproving gaze as her twins demanded I tell them the story again. They couldn't get enough of it. It might have been the 100th time they've asked for it, and I was pretty sure my daughter was done tired of hearing it. Of course, she hadn't been spared either. I did tell her that story at least 100 times when she was still a wee kid. God, time passes so fast. Fortunately, she made a bunch of tiny listeners for me to tell my tale. And even if she didn't confirm yet, I knew she was going to give me another one soon. Her baby bump was betraying her. Maybe she wasn't so done with the story finally. Alright then, gather round. Pop's gonna tell you the story behind that alligator tooth necklace. This is what you wanted, didn't you, little buggers? I sat down on my favorite recliner. I got comfortable and waited for the kids to sit down so that I could start my story. Once they were ready, I began retelling the tale of Jimmy Johnson, the man who saved the day in 1934 when the celestial alligator attacked. May 9th, 1934. It was a night just like any other. Beautiful, calm, the weather a bit warm but nothing unbearable. You could sleep with a window open and be comfortable. The kind of night you sleep like a log and feel refreshed in the morning, you know? The conditions were perfect, at least. It was about 1 a.m. when the small town of Marble Fall, Texas was forced awake by the loudest fucking bang in history. A loud call from the kitchen told me I should watch my language. The kids were about 12. It's not like they didn't hear worse at school. Plus, it got them laughing. I gestured at my daughter that I would be cautious, and kept going with my story. Anyway, pretty sure the whole 3,000 or 4,000 or so people that lived there all woke up. Ain't nobody can keep sleeping when it sounded like the entire goddamn sky exploded. I woke up, Nana woke up, and we both walked to the porch to see what the hell was going on. And I kid you not, kids, I'd never seen a night sky so blue. It wasn't like a day dark, it was more of an electric kind of blue. It felt like someone was messing with us and pointing blue lights at the sky, at least for a hot minute. Then I realized the blue came from the sky itself. And in the middle of that shiny blue night sky was a growing dot even bluer than the rest. It was coming towards us. I held your Nana like I thought the apocalypse came. I held her tight and kissed her temple, convinced that an asteroid was about to hit. You know your papa. I ain't no scientist. I ain't even close to knowing a lot of things. You guys are even smarter than I am. But I knew that whatever was coming towards us wasn't a pretty package gift from the guy upstairs, if you catch my drift. No, sir. There would be no gift on May 9th, 1954 for the residents of Marble Falls, Texas. I took a pause and had a sip of water, then glanced sideways toward the kitchen. Laura was cutting carrots and preparing dinner. Good. If she kept focusing on her task, then she would ignore how I talk. Maybe. My fingers traced the crocodile tooth necklace fondly, and I could see the little bugger's gaze following my fingers. No doubt they were all excited to hear the rest. One of the twins even asked what happened next. It would be rude to keep him waiting. Well, it got closer. It kept getting closer. And the closer it got, the better I could see what was coming. But even if I could see it, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. This just couldn't be possible, you know? So, you know what I did? Well, I went inside and turned on the radio, hoping that there would be some breaking news or alert. But all I got was a scratchy scratch sound. I told Nana to get inside and lock the doors, and I grabbed my shotgun. The celestial creature flew through the air and glowed a magnificent star blue. It just kept coming closer and closer to her town, and I knew that Marble Falls would make history. And then, boom! I yelled loudly and suddenly, watching in glee as their little bodies jumped in surprise. The gator finally hit the earth and, no doubt, destroyed a portion of the main street with it. You heard right. I did say gator. That glowy blue thing was no doubt a celestial being in the form of a gator coming to Marble Falls to punish the sinners. Lori yelled a small, "Dad." She was raising them without religion, though I didn't mind that because it was her life, her kids. It was part of my story. I rolled my eyes and kept going. Screams left and right. I could hear them tear through the air. I could hear their desperate pleas for help. And you know, your pop ain't no hero. But I'd fought in a war, and those aren't sounds I like to hear. I heard it roar, too, and it turned the blood in my veins to ice. I nearly stayed home with Nana, but I felt it was my duty to fight and protect her. With my shotgun in one hand and my other hand on the door handle, I looked at Nana and told her to hide in the basement. I then turned around and left her so that I could help the townsfolk. I got to my pickup and drove to the sheriff's place, and it seemed like I wasn't the only one there. I recognized at least 50 of my boys there. We were all armed and ready to fight. We all heard that damn gator growl, and the screams of our friends as they were, no doubt, torn apart by its claws and teeth. Now, some of us suggested we surround this gator and take aim, but the sheriff said he had a better plan to trap it and kill it while reducing losses. Now, of course, this plan was a better idea than surround and kill. Who knew how many of us he would have slashed and devoured before going down? If it even went down. We also had no idea how thick the scales on that thing were, but we had assumed the worst. Now, I held on to my shotgun like a man would hold on to his life, because, well, my life depended on it. My life, Nana's life, and everybody else's life. But by God, did I want the sheriff to go on with the plans, because we could still hear screaming and death cries all around us. And it was getting closer, and I didn't like how close it was getting to my home. Now, the sheriff's plan was really simple. Since this creature seemed hell-bent on destroying us, we just needed to put as many people in the same spot as possible and use them as bait. And we had the perfect location for it, too. We would lead him to the dead man's hole and kill him while he's stuck at the bottom. Even if that thing was tall and robust, we could kill it if it was trapped at the bottom of Dead Man's Hole. Dead Man's Hole is it's a hole that's 7 feet wide and 160 feet deep. That hole used to be the burial killing site for the sympathizers during the Civil War. The bodies in there had long decomposed in a pile of bones. So, even if there were bones from at least 20 people, it wouldn't give the beast any chance to climb out. It had to work. It was a good plan. We all agreed to serve as bait to lead that beast toward Dead Man's Hole. And so we set out with our trucks and our guns, trying to attract the creature's attention as much as possible. Only Jimmy Johnson said it was suicide and that he wouldn't participate. We all called him a coward and resented him for not joining us, but he said he had another plan, one that he was sure was going to work. He said he didn't even need anyone else to help. We all thought he was a fool and a coward and that he was about to turn tail and run on us. And when he did turn around, we all felt betrayed and abandoned. But with that feeling and the screams of our friends in the distance, we drove off toward the city center, right where the celestial gator was wreaking havoc. Now, the scene we entered was nothing short of a carnage zone. I'd gone to war, and it wasn't as bloody disgusting as what I had to witness. There were limbs left and right, and you wouldn't have been able to tell who they belonged to. I remember the awful, nauseating feeling that coursed through my veins when I ran my truck over the remnants of a sizable man. I heard the rest of his bones crunch under my wheel, even if it was only for a second. I also heard the squelching sound of blood hitting concrete as I crushed another skull. They were all dead, but their bodies were still warm. We finally found it in all of its neon blue glowing glory, though. That son of a bitch's iridescent blue scales were covered in blood and grime, and when it saw us, it growled toward the night sky, and it didn't wait a second before dashing towards us. Let me tell you kids something. Your pop is one of the luckiest men around. Now, I can't say the same for Tawny Leg Mike in the truck behind me. The gator full-on head-butted his truck, and I swear to God above that poor guy probably merged with his car at the same time. I'd like to think that he didn't feel a thing, that his death was instantaneous, but, well, it probably wasn't. That truck was sent flying and broke through the local jeweler's store window. But I couldn't keep looking behind. I pushed on the acceleration pedal and I drove off as fast as I could towards Dead Man's Hole. But that fucking thing ran faster than me. And for some reason, I guess luck, well, it didn't attack me. It struck one truck leading to the charge, then started down the second, third, and fourth. I hit the brake and tried to turn around. It was like it knew where we were going and just straight up said, "Nope, I ain't going in that hole." I felt like my only chance would be to get back to Nana and hope for the best. Unfortunately, when I tried to reverse my truck, I was hit by another truck in the back that was promptly ejected through the windshield. And this is how I got this scar right here. I lifted the white hair from my forehead and showed a large scar that went from the middle of my forehead to the center of my skull. You see, this is why you wear your seatbelt, kids. I woke up on the pavement maybe 5-10 minutes later. My whole body was in pain, but again, in my luck, I didn't break my legs. I could still run. I couldn't hear much because my heartbeat was dizzying, but the screaming picked up again. I heard an explosion in the background, and my vision was blurry. Worst, I had blood all over my face. And, I thought this was where I'd be dying, There was no way I could run away with a concussion like this. I looked ahead as I tried to stand up, helping myself with a street lamp. Maybe 300 feet away from me, the creature picked up eating again. I saw our sheriff being bitten in half, guts and gore spilling from his midsection as he was slowly eaten. Then it moved on to the second truck it wrecked, plucked out another man, and ate him too. And it was coming down the street. No doubt, I would be eventually eaten. There wasn't a single shred of hope for your pop. To put it simply, the Dead Man's Hole plan was a complete failure. Everyone was dead, dying, or about to die. I swallowed thickly and leaned on the street lamp, dizzy as ever. Should I try to walk home? I didn't think so. I didn't want that creature to find your Nana. I was going to stay and fight, even if, I couldn't. I turned my gaze left and saw the sports equipment shop. The window was broken, so I hobbled over there and grabbed the metal bat hanging on the display stand. What was I supposed to do? Well, I didn't know. Nobody knew. You see, nobody knew except for Jimmy Johnson. I felt his hand on my shoulder and I turned around. He was smiling. Now, Jimmy Johnson's smile was full of hope as he told me to sit down and watch. I didn't say shit when he started running toward the gator, who was now less than 100 feet away. I saw Jimmy Johnson running toward the goddamn monster, and I couldn't move. Then, Jimmy Johnson, that crazy bastard, shed his coat, and I understood. The man was strapped with TNT. It was some crazy shit, and for a second, I really wanted to stop him, but then I didn't. Well, I didn't because his smile was full of hope, and there was none left for us if it didn't work. And so I sat down on the broken display of the sports equipment shop and prayed. I kept my eyes on Jimmy Johnson as he ran to the beast, and as that gator opened its giant maw and took Jimmy in it, Jimmy was about to be devoured. He knew it. We see, Jimmy waited. He waited more than any man could have in this situation. He turned his face toward me, and I saw through the blood, tears, and sweat that he was still smiling. He mouthed something at me, and I'm sure it was something along the "just watch" lines. And as the gator's teeth were about to put an end to his life, Jimmy Johnson lit all that TNT. And in a magnificent display of gore and heroism, Jimmy Johnson saved me, Nana, and the entirety of Marble Falls. Hell, maybe even neighboring towns because, well, God knows how long it would have been to take the government forces to interact. It was a scene of gore and blood, and bits of human flesh and gator scales were scattered all across the town. And there was a chunk of meat about this big. It dropped at my feet after hitting the street lamp sideways, and I could feel my insides shaking as I stood up and walked toward the explosion site. And there was nothing left but this. I flicked my gator's teeth necklace, and I picked them up, and I picked them up. See, I picked them up for Jimmy Johnson. That stupid bastard sure did it. Laura came to the living room. "You know, Dad, you could have toned it down a bit on the gore. They're 12, not 16. I shrugged, stood up, and kissed her cheek. "You know, Laura, when you were their age, you liked it gory too." "Thank you, Jimmy Johnson."